Hey there everyone, this is Samuel Johnson and welcome back to the Xiaolin Perspectives, and today we're going to be discussing episode 40 of Xiaolin Showdown / the first episode of season 3, Finding Omi. So, previously on Xiaolin Showdown. In a bid to finally win Omi to his side and take over the world, Chase Young managed to trick Omi into using a Shengong Wu called the Yin Yo-Yo, a yo-yo that had the power to open up a gateway to another reality called the Yin Yang world. Upon returning from the Yin Yang world, Omi wound up losing his good chi as a result of coming and going from the Yin Yang world, and as a result he threw his lot in with Chase, and with their powers combined, Chase was able to basically take over the world. As such, while the Xiaolin monks did eventually catch on to what Chase had been doing, sadly by this point Omi had already sworn his loyalty to Chase, and the world was kind of fucked with their powers combined. Plus, Chase took advantage of this opportunity to steal the Serpent's Tail, and with the reversing mirror already in his control, he was able to use both of their powers to make Wuya whole again. Though with his combined power, he was able to stop her from fully reviving, so to speak. Either way, the Xiaolin monks realized that if they want to save Omi, they need to get access to the Yin Yang world, both to get Omi's good chi back, as well as to find the Yin Yo-Yo's opposite, the Yang Yo-Yo, as it's only with the combined power of both Shengong Wu that one can freely come and go from the Yin Yang world without having their switch flip to evil. As such, the Xiaolin monks were able to get their hands on the Yin Yo-Yo, they managed to get Omi's good chi, and they managed to return it to him, thus making him good again. But unfortunately, like I said, since he had already sworn his loyalty to Chase, well, he kind of had to keep his word. So even though he was made good again, he was turned into one of Chase's cats, and now has to faithfully serve him. As a result, despite the Xiaolin monks' best efforts, Chase still rules the world, and they're kind of no better off than they were before. Although they did get a kind of positive, I think, because Jack wound up going with them to the Yin Yang world, and because he was carrying the reversing mirror with him, it basically nullified the nullifying effect of both yo-yos, and as such he had his switch flip to good when he came back with them. So there's that. Also, something followed them. I didn't mention that during the last vlog because I completely spaced it out. But it's important for this episode, and we start to see that, and we actually see that in place. As the episode begins, we see Chase just being an ass to people. Yeah, now that he rules the world, he's basically just he's just basically dropped all pretense, and is just being a dick to people because he can be a dick. And while Omi doesn't agree with any of his methods and would want to help out, again, because he's sworn his loyalty to Chase, he has to just sadly stand by and watch. But though Chase promises them that in time, he will come to appreciate evil, with him just giving Omi some light scratches behind the ears, which does cause Omi to purr, but only because he thinks it's so comfortable. Either way, back with the Xiaolin monks, they're sadly trying to figure out how they can save their friend. Thankfully, they have Master Feng back on their side, since they got his good chi back from the Yin Yang world, and thus they restored him to normal, but he's still kind of immobile. Because I'm assuming that with all the abuse he suffered while he was in his meditative state, he is now in a full body cast. Although there could be an alternative explanation, because you see Jack Spicer as one of the good guys, still kind of a doofus, because he keeps trying to tend to Master Feng, and, well, considering how Master Feng shies away from him, and considering that at one point when he tries giving Master Feng hot tea, he ends up accidentally spilling on him, mostly because Dojo was fighting him over who would be giving him the tea, I'm guessing that Jack isn't exactly the best nurse. But regardless, Master Feng is at least somewhat able to help, as Kimiko gives him her laptop so he can at least communicate with them. And he does at least give the Xiaolin monks a bit of hope, because you see, apparently, written in the ancient scroll of the Shengong Wu, there is a rule, I guess, that states that the Xiaolin monks do have the right to challenge Chase Young for Omi. So, as a result, they could go to his base right now and actually challenge Chase, but the downside is that if they lose the chase, then basically Chase gets the full hand, as he'll be able to get the entirety of the Xiaolin monks under his command. So basically it's everything to gain, everything to lose. So yeah, Xiaolin monks realize they kind of have to go through with this. However, before they even get the chance, they end up getting attacked. Remember that creature that I glossed over and talked about in my summation in the last episodes? Well, now it's making itself known. The thing is, though, part of the reason why the Xiaolin monks didn't see this thing following them is because for whatever reason, it was invisible. And as it moves around, it continues to be invisible, and it keeps launching attacks against the Xiaolin monks and Jack Spicer. As such, using the Sword of the Storms, Raimundo is able to kick up enough wind for them to get a good look at where it is, and it basically drops its invisibility. And what we see is kind of a creepy sight. It's this very lanky, tall creature with a weird, I guess, headband on it, and it's just got narrow, angry eyes and a mouth just full of sharp teeth, and it looks like a spiral or a void or something that makes up its throat. Basically, this is a monster directly from the Yin Yang world. No duh. And it's called a Qi creature, and the reason why it's attacking the Xiaolin monks? Well, you see, when the Xiaolin monks went to the Yin Yang world, they kind of stole what it considered its property, because this thing is supposed to be the guardian of all the Qi that's in the Yin Yang world. And yes, while the Xiaolin monks were basically taking the Qi in order to restore their friends, well, the Qi technically belonged to this creature, so it came through the portal because it wanted to fill in the holes in its collection, meaning that it's willing to take anyone's Qi, not just their good Qi, all their Qi. As such, it's going after the Xiaolin monks because it wants to siphon out their Qi, but thankfully, thanks to quick thinking from Jack Spicer, they're able to contain the creature using the Spear of Yun. Either way, with the creature currently indisposed, the Xiaolin monks start making their way to Chase's base so they can challenge him, though they leave Master Feng with the Silk Spitter and the Glove of Jisaku to better protect himself. Unfortunately, though, that's when Chase decides to make his move, as he decides that it's finally time to get rid of the Xiaolin monks, and how he does that? He frees the Chi Beast as he throws at the serpent's tail, and using its power, it's able to slip out of its orb and immediately attacks Master Feng and steals all of his Chi. And Wuya, being a petty bitch, takes this opportunity to take the Shengon we had on him, which of course includes the aforementioned Glove of Jisaku, the Silk Spitter, and as a final screw you to the Xiaolin monks, she takes the Yang Yo-Yo. So yeah, no more freely coming and going from the Yin Yang world, and unfortunately, after Master Feng is dealt with, Chase is able to point the creature to the Xiaolin monks, and well, long story short, it manages to catch up to them, and despite their best efforts, all of them lose their good Qi. Well, most of them. Thankfully, Jack Spicer and Dojo are left unharmed as they manage to evade the creature, but by the time they find the remaining Xiaolin monks, they are just out of it. They clearly have no idea what the hell's going on or where the hell they are. And they're just loopy, so to speak. As such, Dojo and Jack return to the temple and find Master Feng in the same state, and they realize that they need to get their Qi back. However, they also realize that the Yang Yo-Yo is gone. But Jack does at least assure Dojo they still have the Yin Yo-Yo, so even without that, they could still enter the Yin Yang world, but the problem is whoever goes into the Yin Yang world will have their switch flipped to evil. And, well, Jack volunteers himself, as he is fully aware that once he leaves the Yin Yang world, he'll be back to normal and he won't miss being good, but he's good right now, and he's willing to make that sacrifice, even if it means becoming a jackass later. So he is more than happy to. So for the sake of his friends, he's more than willing to do it. Although he does use Dojo as bait because he needs something to lure out the Chi Beast, since they got to get it back to the Yin Yang world. Otherwise, it's going to keep causing problems. Either way, after dressing Dojo up as a sheep, which is weird considering they live in the mountains and he can shapeshift, but whatever, they manage to lure out the Chi Beast, and thankfully, before it can take Dojo's Chi, Jack is able to use the Yin Yo-Yo to open a portal, which he ends up jumping through with the Chi Beast going through on the other side. As such, both end up in the Yin Yang world, and to distract the Chi Beast, Jack uses the Ring of the Nine Dragons to split himself in two, hold on one second. Sorry, phone call. But yeah, Jack uses the Ring of the Nine Dragons to split himself in two, and while one Jack basically distracts the Chi Beast, the other basically starts browsing through all the Chi until it can find the Chi of the Xiaolin monks. And thankfully, he's able to find them, and thus while his other half is dealing with the Chi Beast, the one that found the Chi is able to use the Yin Yo-Yo to escape from the Yin Yang world, which unfortunately does turn him back into evil Jack that we all know and, well, kind of tolerate. As such, thankfully, Dojo is there to intercept Jack, and he manages to grab both the Yin Yo-Yo and the Chi, and to ensure that Jack doesn't get in his way, he uses the Spear of Yun to trap him and just kind of leaves him. So, well, Jack's once again the punching bag, so whatever. Point is, though, Dojo is able to return the Chi to the Xiaolin monks, and it turns out that Chase has not been idle while Jack and Dojo have been working, as he managed to find each of the Xiaolin monks, and he's put their dazed and confused states to work in his palace, just doing menial labor. Thankfully, Dojo is able to return their Chi and bring them back to their senses, but at that point, that's when Chase, Wuya, and Omi arrive, and Chase has every intent of finally just dealing with the monks personally. But it's here that the monks basically exercise their right to challenge Chase for Omi, and so they challenge him to a Xiaolin showdown, which I'm guessing this is kind of like a big fundamental rule or whatever, because again, it was written in the ancient scroll to Shengong Wu, so it's probably something like fundamentally tied to like Chase's power, and considering how much of a grip he has over the world right now, I'm considering that apparently all this is written in the stars in some prophecy that we still don't know about. I'm gonna let it slide, because it could be something more metaphysical in place than just average Shengong Wu. So I'm willing to let it slide for why this Xiaolin Showdown doesn't require any Shengong Wu to activate. And no Shengong Wu is even more appropriate, because one of the conditions Chase sets for this showdown is that neither side can use Shengong Wu. They just have to use their Kung Fu and natural skills, which the Xiaolin monks accept. But either way, the terms of the showdown, if the Xiaolin monks win, they get Omi. And of course, if Chase wins, he gets them permanently. And the challenge? It's a game of Xiaolin soccer. Basically, it's the Xiaolin monks versus Chase and 3 of his cats, which will metamorphose into their humanoid forms. Basically, the first person to score 4 points is the winner. And, well, to try and ensure that the teams are evenly matched, Omi gets to work alongside the other Xiaolin monks, which Omi happily accepts. But either way, with the terms of the showdown met, it's Xiaolin showdown time. And I'll give credit where it's due, considering just how dark that this 3-parter has been so far. It's just kind of fun to see a Xiaolin showdown finally take place. That they are duking it out with the guy who has now taken over the world and turned the entire planet into a hellscape. But he's got to obey these rules, and the area still transforms as part of Chase's base flies into the sky, transforms into this demonic-looking arena with his cats in the stand along with Wuya. It's great. I just love it. But either way, with a yellow gongi tongue pie, immediately both sides get to work. And unfortunately, the Xiaolin monks don't exactly fare so well, as Chase and his crew are able to score 3 points. Thankfully, Omi is able to think of a counter strategy, as while Chase may be good, well, he didn't teach Omi everything, and Omi does have some of his own moves, which I love. As Omi and Chase are basically trying to outmaneuver the other. At one point, they're just naming off moves being in sync until Omi has up sparrow eating hot dog, which just causes Chase to pause like, what? I don't know. I find that hilarious. But either way, the Xiaolin monks are able to use their moves more succinctly, and it does end up scoring them at least 3 points. Although, unfortunately, Chase does manage to get the ball in this case being Dojo. I forgot to mention that because, well, I kind of forgot about it. But yeah, he was the ball. But anyway, he gets the Dojo ball and almost scores a point, but thankfully the Xiaolin monks are able to do a full Dragon X Kume formation, and it gives them enough of a boost that they're able to finally catch up to Chase and knock him and the Dojo ball straight into their goal. And as a result, they win with 4 points, thus winning the showdown. And, well, by the terms set forth, Chase basically loses his right to have Omi on his side. And as a result, Omi gets his power back, he's reverted to his human form, and thus without the extra boost of having Omi on his side, the world reverts back to normal. The planet basically repairs itself, all the damage that Chase did is undone, and, well, everything's back to normal, including the showdown, which is par for the course, but whatever. Point is, Omi's back on the side of the good guys, though Chase thinks that while Omi may be good again, his evil side is still in there, and it could be more powerful than Omi even realizes. And once he's tasted evil, if he turns again, it might not be so easy to go back. But it's just kind of standard villain. We're not so different kind of BS. But Omi at least does apologize to the Xiaolin monks that he didn't listen to them before, because after all, he had the secret to eradicating evil, and he never used it, and now as a result, everything got fucked up because of his judgment, which I'm okay with. I do kind of like that, because after all, it was Omi basically jumping the gun a lot that kind of led him to this whole situation. But Chase, in one of his trademark I'm not so badism moments, he actually lets Omi know that if he had listened to the other Xiaolin monks about acting on the knowledge to eradicate evil, it would have harmed them all in the long run. As it turns out, when Omi and Chase were using the Fountain of Wii and the Eagle Scope together, Chase was fully aware that Omi took a quick peek to find the secret to eradicating evil. And knowing this in advance, he had the reversing mirror on standby and used it to mess with what Omi saw. And as a result, what Omi really saw was not the secret to eradicating evil, but rather the secret to eradicating good. So it's probably a good idea that Omi didn't act on the knowledge that he did. So his judgment wasn't completely faulty after all. But the fact that Chase told Omi that at all? actually a rather nice thing to do. He didn't have to do it, which kind of convinces Omi that there's probably a little bit of good left in Chase, even if he doesn't want to accept it. Either way, though, since Chase is still an honorable warrior, he at least lets the Xiaolin monks leave without further incident, and it's clear that what Omi said did get to him a little, as he's just kind of glaring as they go. But either way, the Xiaolin monks return to the temple, while Master Feng is back to normal as he's gotten all of his chi back, and he's now out of the full body cast, though he still has his arm in a sling. But either way, with the danger past, it's now time to figure out who's going to be the Wudai warrior. After all, he said he was going to name one of those Xiaolin monks the Wudai warrior before all this happened, so now it's time for him to finally say who it's going to be. And when he says who it's going to be, he seems to say Omi, with the other Xiaolin monks congratulating Omi, though he doesn't feel he's deserving of this honor, until Master Feng says you didn't let me continue, as he names not only Omi, but Kimiko, Raimundo, and Clay as Wudai warriors. And as a result of their new rank, all of them get brand new sashes. They're no longer dark blue, it's now like a teal/lime bluish green. I don't know. It's basically just basically just lighter sashes. They look cool. I dig them. And of course, the Xiaolin monks are happy for this, but they're kind of curious why they're all being promoted, especially since Master Feng said he was only going to promote one of them. Well, it turns out in a weird roundabout way, they acted as one. He said that he would only recruit them if the four acted as one. Yeah, even I call BS on that, and Dojo concurs as he thinks Master Feng makes this shit up as he goes along. Either way, though, Xiaolin monks are promoted, world is safe, so once again, status quo restored as the Xiaolin monks continue their training, and that's where the episode ends, so there you go. I'll admit, the ending I feel is not as emotionally satisfying as the last multi-parter season finale / opener that we got, which I don't like saying, but I think it's true. While I will admit that Chase's take over the world feels a lot more ominous than when Wuya took over the world, I think the way things wrapped up doesn't feel as emotionally satisfying. I'm not saying it is emotionally unsatisfying. I'm just saying that I think the last time they did it was better. With that said, this one is not bad. I will not deny that it is not bad. I will not deny. This is not a bad three-parter. I dare say it's actually pretty damn good. It's not great, but it is pretty damn good. Kind of going back to what we've seen in previous episodes, seeing Chase Young being able to so thoroughly take over the world is a really horrifying sight. And I'll give kudos to the Finding Omi episode. It actually does answer some of the questions that I had while watching the first two parts. One of the questions that I kept asking throughout this three-parter was, how is Omi joining Chase, giving him enough power to take over the world? And the beginning of this episode actually explained it, because Chase said that it was Omi's power combined with his own that gave him that extra boost that he needed, which I'm okay with. Again, it's just a little thing. It's a little side thing, but I at least like that they finally do explain why Omi being on Chase's side gave him the authority to rule all the world and so forth. So I like that. I like seeing it expressed, and how they showcase it with Chase is that, like those dots I mentioned before that Omi had, Chase now has them. As now that Omi is one of his cats, basically whatever was Omi's is now Chase's. And when Chase loses Omi, the dots go right back to Omi. So I like that. I do at least like. So again, I like that acknowledgement. I like that they do fill in that plot hole that I kept asking. So I do give kudos. And considering the fact that Chase's power was up to the point where he could rule the world, I think that again would explain why Wuya wasn't able to come back fully powered, which I did talk about last time, and I did throw out as a possibility. So I'm kind of glad that it was basically that it's kind of confirmed in this episode that could be why Wuya didn't come back fully powered, which again, makes sense. If Chase is so powerful that he could literally reshape the entire landscape and split the earth in half, I think he would have enough power to ensure that no one could defy him, especially someone like Wuya, who he is actively bringing back to life, so to speak. So I think that makes sense. Sadly, though, for Wuya, I mean, despite Chase losing all that extra power, she doesn't get her full power back either. So while by the end of this three-parter, she's still flesh and blood, she's still subservient to Chase. And I'm just gonna say this right now, I still love seeing Wuya being subservient to this guy. Like, the thing is, I remember someone pointed out to me, I'm not going to say who, that Wuya kind of acted differently when she was in her flesh form versus when she's in her ghost form. I kind of disagree with this. The thing is, Well, thing is, while Wuya can be a little less grumpy when she's in her flesh form, I think the reason why I don't really see a change in her demeanor. I think the reason why why someone would probably see a change in her demeanor is probably because, well, we is flesh and blood now. As a ghost, she always had to she always had to live on the whim of whomever she was working with. Jack Spicer, the Cyclops, Raksha, Chase Young, everybody. She always had to rely on someone else to do her handiwork, and as a result, she was kind of limited in what she could and couldn't do. And so, as a result, it kind of makes sense why she would be a lot more impatient and angry as a ghost. As flesh and blood, however, she's still more capable. And honestly, so I can understand why she would be the way she is. But the thing is, when you really look at Wuya, her personality isn't any different when she's a ghost. She still can be an asshole. She can still be a bitch. She can still look down on others. She still takes joy in suffering of other people. She's still an opportunist that takes whatever she can, as we saw in this episode when she nabbed the Yang Yo-Yo, the Silk Spitter, and the Globe Jisaku from Master Feng. So it's clear that so she's still the same bitch that we always know her to be. It's just that now she's no longer limited to being a ghost. Sadly, she's not as in control as she wants to be, but still, I think she's the same opportunist. It's just that now she actually can move around and do her own thing without having to be tied to someone completely. Again, completely. She's still working with Chase, and I doubt he's gonna be happy if she decided to one day say, I guess this partnership's over. I mean, you brought me back to life. It's nice, but I gotta go. I don't know. I think even she knows that she'd be fucked if she tried to go out on her own even now, so what can you do? What can you do? But I think when it comes down to the overall quality of this three-parter, I admit, I think the first two parts are definitely the best, though they are hampered by some things. Like I said, the constant questions that you are asking yourself throughout the first two parts do kind of take you out of it a little bit. And likewise, the whole asking questions about how the yin and yang yo-yo do make me kind of scratch my head. Again, it makes more sense later on, but it's definitely something that's on your mind as you're watching the episode. I'm willing to pull back a little on these criticisms, though, because again, the third part does kind of exemplify them and explain some things like that, with what I said before, with Chase saying that Omi's power plus his own is what gave him the extra oomph that he needed to actually take over the world. So I am gonna I'll again give kudos for that, and I'll even give some kind of fun stuff. Good Jack's just. He's good comic relief. I won't deny it. He's uncomfortable to watch, and even the Xiaolin monks feel a little weirded out by seeing Jack acting so nice and gosh darn friendly with them. It's just so weird, and even I was watching the episode thinking, can he go back to being evil now? Like that Jack was more preferable to this guy. I'll still give him kudos that Good Jack was a decent guy. He helped out the Xiaolin monks wherever he could. He tried everything in his power to not be a hindrance, and the thing is, he's still a genius. Yeah, he could still be kind of a bumbler, but he knew what he was doing. But he kind of knew what he was doing. He stayed out of the Xiaolin monk's way when necessary. He got out the sphere of Yun when the Chi Beast attacked, and likewise, he actually did think of a good plan to counter the Chi Beast and help the Xiaolin monks, even though he knew it would turn him back into being an evil douchebag. So I do think that so it's kind of nice to see Jack using his intelligence to be more friendly, and I do like that. And here's a little fun, and the thing is, remember when I said that Jack split himself in two? Well, his other half never gets fused back. Jack and his other half never get fused back together. So Good Jack is still in the yin-yang world somewhere, and it's a minor spoiler, he will become important in a later episode. So again, just kind of setting things up for later. I dig that. But again, kind of going back to my thoughts on the episode, if I can list more positives, well, I'll say this, the Chi Beast, in the grand scheme of things, it's just an obstacle, and it's just an obstacle that's there to help hinder the Xiaolin monks, but oh, sweet mother of God, this thing is creepy. Its design already just looks weird and inhuman and more animalistic. The fact that it looks like this big, lanky creature with these angry eyes and a mouthful of teeth and a weird void, it already feels creepy. But the thing is, how it sucks out chi is that it literally sticks out its tongue and it goes in your ear and it sucks it right out. That's creepy, my man. It's creepy. And the fact that this thing can turn invisible, seems to go around and has other ethereal powers, it already feels unnerving. Like at one point, the Xiaolin monks end up crushing it under a pile of rocks, and how it gets out of it is that it splits apart into a bunch of little copies and refuses back together, and then takes the monks out one by one when they get split up. It's honest to God creepy, and I think would make for a good horror movie monster, as the idea of losing, because the thing is, while it doesn't end up killing anybody, losing your chi and becoming basically a mindless zombie that's just kind of repeating the motions, that's just fucking creepy. And we see the Xiaolin monks when they're completely stripped of their chi, good and evil, it's just like, god dang, this is just scary. It's weird and okay, less scary, more unnerving, but still, it's definitely not a sight that you want to behold. So I will give credit. The Chi Beast is definitely creepy. Its biggest flaw, however, is that it was literally just an obstacle to overcome and not really a big threat. With that said, I do also like the finale. I like that again. It's a Xiaolin showdown. Like I said, I'm willing to give a pass for that and for no Shen Gong Wu activating this one, because again, it was apparently written in the Shen Gong Wu vault, in the scroll of the Shen Gong Wu, and considering that this was all part of a prophecy, and there's obviously some metaphysical aspects in play, as Chase was able to add Omi's power to his own, you could argue that this is basically something that was written into the stars themselves, and so the Xiaolin monks have a right to basically challenge Chase the way they did. So I'm willing to give it a pass. But again, kind of going back to how the rest of this three-parter could be so dark and gloomy, with seeing Chase rule the world, seeing the Xiaolin monk's friend be turned to the dark side and forced to stay there even when they get him back on the side of the angels. It definitely can feel very creepy and unnerving. So seeing them go into a Xiaolin showdown, it actually kind of feels exciting. It helps remind you that this is still a kid's show, that this is still about a bunch of kung fu fighting Shaolin monks with all these weird supernatural powers, and it's just kind of, and the fact that the challenge is just literally a game of soccer. That's fun. That's just kind of fun. It's not like this big serious battle. It's them throwing dojo around and him just suffering as a result. It's great, and I dig that. And what I love too is the Xiaolin monks basically beating Chase. Something I've sadly neglected to talk about that I really wish I had talked about is the progression of the Xiaolin monks when they face Chase. Now, we've seen this more with Omi than with the other Xiaolin monks, but the thing is, every time that Omi has confronted Chase Young, he's been more and more of a match for him, which I like. When the Xiaolin monks first faced Chase, there was no challenge on Chase's part. He could easily just wipe the floor with them, knock their attacks aside, and basically exuded little to no effort in taking them down. And it was only thanks to Master Monk Guan that they initially secured a victory against Chase Young. After that, every other time they encountered Chase Young, they weren't really fighting him. The closest they got to actually confronting Chase was when Omi and Chase had their Xiaolin showdown. And you could argue that Chase let himself lose that one. So there's a very, very good chance that Chase... So there's always like the chance... So the thing is, whenever the Xiaolin monks have ever faced Chase Young, they've never really faced him head on, with the only one that's ever really gotten close enough to do that being Omi. But the fact that we see the Xiaolin monks now actively using their skills to actually better face off against Chase and actually secure some wins in the showdown, I like that, because it's showing the Xiaolin monks growing stronger, improving, showing that their training is paying off, and I dig that. They use the skills to their advantage. They try and outthink their opponents. I do think it's nice. And seeing it bear fruit and basically them beating Chase, it's good. And the fact that, the thing is, when Chase tells them that they can freely leave, you can feel the seething in his voice. So it wasn't a simple example of he let them win, which I think if he did let them win, that would have been stupid on his part, because losing meant that he lost the world as well. But the thing is, so I like that they actually did secure a win. Did they completely defeat Chase? No, he's still running around doing his own thing, and he will appear in later episodes. But the thing is, he lost the showdown. He lost fair and square, and while he still tries to do his thing and say, well, you tasted evil now, Omi, so maybe next time you'll fully turn, well, it's clear that he's not happy. And I like that. I like that the Xiaolin monks were able to basically, by their own merits, to rise up and defeat Chase Young. And that's good. I like that. It's nice progression. And seeing it finally pay off, it's nice. I do dig it. But if I can give one flaw to the third part of this three-parter, it's that it feels I don't like saying this, mostly business. There's not really a lot of character stuff that we see in this episode, and that's one of the reasons why this three-parter is, I think, a little lesser than the three-parter that we, or kind of three-parter that we got with the season 1 slash the season 1 finale slash season 2 opener. Because in that one was very emotionally charged, with Raimundo willingly turning over to the side of darkness, having the world be corrupted by Wuya, the Xiaolin monks struggling just to get some kind of a victory, while we see Raimundo constantly kind of juggling with whether he wants to be evil or not, and finally make his decision when he turns on Wuya. It felt a lot more charged, and quite frankly, it felt more emotionally satisfying when Raimundo did turn back to the good guys, but openly admitted that he still had some ways to go before he could feel redeemed. I liked that. On top of that, there were also consequences from the Xiaolin monks working with Jack Spicer, as they can't fully accept that he would turn back to evil. And while Jack still says that he's going to go back to being evil, and the next time they see each other, they're going to be on opposite sides again, it's clear that he did enjoy working with the Xiaolin monks, even if his quote-unquote moral code ensures that he's not going to be working with them again. So I do like that. It felt more emotionally charged, the stakes were very high, and it still felt emotionally satisfying and nice and sweet to see it all wrapped up. With this finale, however, there's a lot less of that. I'm not saying that there is no emotion, far from it. Like I said, seeing Omi get turned to the dark side and working with Chase Young, it's some twisted shit. And even in this part of the episode, I like that they acknowledge that a lot of this is kind of Omi's fault. Which it was. Thing is, the reason why Omi turned to the dark side, it's because he thought he knew best. He thought he knew better than the other Xiaolin monks, and thus made stupid decisions without anyone consulting each other. Now, mind you, they do show at some point that some of his judgments were correct, as if he had listened to the other Xiaolin monks and exposed the secret to eradicating evil, then he would have screwed everyone else over in the long run, because that knowledge was tainted since Chase used the reversing mirror to ensure Omi saw the opposite of what he needed to see. So that regard, that's sound judgment. But by that same token, Omi still didn't listen to anyone else, and how that came back to bite everyone in the ass was when everyone wanted to just kind of sit and wait to use the yin yo-yo. Omi said, "Fuck that," used it, and as a result, he came out of the yin yang world twisted and evil and working with Chase Young, which in turn allowed Chase to completely take over the world. So yeah, that kind of bit Omi in the ass, and I like that by the end of the episode, Omi does acknowledge that all the bad shit that happened, it was kind of his fault, and I do appreciate that. Even after everything is said and done, and he's the first to be named a Wudai warrior, even he thinks he's undeserving of that because of his mistakes, which I like that. I like that we do get some acknowledgement of that, and it's some good character development on Omi's part, as he allows him to be more humble and realize that he's not the best at what he is, and he still has room to grow, which I think is a good and admirable trait for Omi to learn. It's just that, again, they don't spend as much time on it as I felt that they should, as the most we get of it is Omi apologizing that he didn't act on the knowledge he did, but then likewise getting the affirmation from Chase that when he said, "Oh no, actually the knowledge you had was tainted, so it's a good thing you didn't use it," which again, it's not bad, it's just that I feel like we could have had a bit more, it should have had a little bit more to it, is what I'm saying. With that said, I also do like that despite Omi and Chase now being back on opposite sides, the mutual respect they have for each other is still there, and it's showcasing the fact that Chase is still trying to kind of tempt Omi back to the dark side. Now, you could argue that he basically is trying to trick Omi back so he can get him back, so that he can get his power back, so he can resume his control of the world. But I also like to think that it's just because Chase admires Omi as a warrior. And likewise, when Chase does give Omi a solid and lets him know, "Oh yeah, I sabotaged the knowledge, so you would have screwed everyone over if you did act on it," it's something he didn't have to do, but he did anyway, just to help affirm to Omi, no, your judgment there was actually sound. I do like that, and even Omi admits that Chase didn't, that fact that Chase was willing to do that at all, it shows that there's a lot more good in him than even he realizes. Something that I know Chase isn't happy to hear, but it's nice. I like that. So, in that regard, that is emotionally satisfying. It's just that by the end, I would have liked it if they had spent a little bit more time on the fallout from Omi's mistakes, rather than just jumping into, "Oh yeah, now everyone's a Wudai warrior." warrior, which I'm glad to see the Xiaolin monks moving up. I actually do think that's a good way to open up season 3 with them all being promoted. But like Dojo, I had to admit, it's kind of a cop-out to say, oh, only one of you will be promoted, and then promote all 4. It's definitely, like Dojo said, it felt like Master Fung just made that shit up, so I don't know. Overall, though, I think this 3-parter is definitely really good. Each of the 3 parts tends to vary in terms of quality. In fact, if you had to ask me which part is the best, I think that Saving Omi is the best one, as that one showed a world where everything was fucked. We got to see Omi on the side of darkness. Things are a lot more uncertain. We got to see the Xiaolin monks have to try and venture into dangerous territory by going to the Yin Yang world, and even despite all their efforts, they still fail, as Omi is still with the bad guys, even though he's now officially good again. And I feel like that, I think it ended more strongly. But when it comes down to it, as a whole, I think the 3-parter is really damn good. The quality of each part maybe differ, but none of them are bad. All of them, I think, do a really good job at showcasing the story they want to do. It's cool to see Chase Young finally act on his grand ambitions and get Omi to his side. The subterfuge and planning he did to try and trick Omi into allying with him was really smart. And the thing is, Chase laid the grounder for this already. Because the thing is, even if Omi turned to the dark side, he still would have been Omi. So who's to say that if Chase didn't put in the legwork and he still made Omi evil, that Omi would have sided with him at all? I mean, the thing is, part of the reason why Omi went with Chase is because Chase was one of the few people who believed in him and actually kind of fanned the flames of his "I'm better than everyone" attitude. So it makes sense why Omi, when turning evil, would say, you know what, maybe this guy is the guy I want to go with. If Chase hadn't done the legwork to earn Omi's trust, then Omi could have still easily turned on him, and Chase would have had to deal with the prophecy that he mentioned where Omi took him down. Which, by the way, we still never learned anything about that prophecy. Would like a little bit more about that, please. But whatever. It's still nice, and it still shows Chase thinking several steps ahead. And we see that even in as far as the second part of the episode, as even when Omi is on his side, he gets Omi to swear his fealty to him, so that even when Omi is turned back into a good guy, he's still has to work with Chase, and I like that. And on top of, as for the third part, it doesn't really have Chase doing a lot, which makes sense. He's already got control of the world. At this point, it's just if anything, the world's his playground at this point, and he's just playing in it. So I do kind of so at that point, I understand why he's not doing a lot, but it is at least somewhat satisfying to see the Xiaolin monks use their training to their advantage and take him down. Maybe it feels a little too easy, maybe, but again, I would argue that it's nice to see the Xiaolin monks actually get so skilled that they can now face Chase Young. Face Chase Young and have it be a more fair fight. I think that's good. And again, by the end, with Omi acknowledging his faults and him and Chase still having their mutual respect, I do dig that. I do think it's nice. Again, the third part definitely doesn't feel as emotionally charged as it could be, but I still enjoyed it. And again, still seeing the world in its fucked up state is definitely very harrowing. Seeing those skies red, fire, volcanoes, like streams of lava, it's definitely scary. Plus, by the way, Jack's team of evil baddies, they got catapulted. Sucks to be them, but whatever. Either way, when it comes down to it, I did enjoy this 3-parter. It was nice to see Chase Young, but it was cool to see Chase Young finally enact his plan. I think it was a really good plan. Seeing the world under his control is nice. Seeing Omi turn to the dark side because of his actions and arrogance, I do think works, and I like that they acknowledge by the end how everything goes. Seeing the Xiaolin monks struggle to get him back through all 3 parts before finally making this last-ditch effort to get him back on their side with the Xiaolin Showdown was cool. The Xiaolin Showdown, I think, was a great payoff to all the serious and dark shit we've been seeing up to this point. It definitely had its share of fun moments, like seeing Jack get turned into one of the good guys briefly. I like the twists and turns that everything took, from Chase playing his subterfuge to getting Wuya back to her physical form, to even the fucking Chi Beast, which, while I will admit its flaws that it's only an obstacle rather than a big threat, it was still a creepy thing, and I definitely did not feel easy whenever it was on screen, so I like that. So, on the whole, well, I do think that the Wuya 3-parter from the season 1 finale / season 2 opener was better. I still like this 3-parter. It's a nice way of growing Omi's character while still giving us high stakes with Chase Young. It's cool to see everything go. It's interesting to see everything go down. The tension is still high, and by the end, I did feel emotionally satisfied. I admit the ending The ending may not have been as great as I wanted it to be, but I still was suitably entertained, and I still had fun watching that. And I can still safely say that no part of this three-parter was bad. So on the whole, I did enjoy what I saw. Again, the last three-parter was definitely better, but I don't think that this one was bad at all. So take with that what you will. So yeah, I think that's really all I have to say. I thank you for watching. I'm Samuel Johnson, and next week the Xiaolin perspectives are going to go on another hiatus, as next week I'm going to be doing a vlog on Captain America: Brave New World. But when we next come back to Xiaolin Showdown, well, I think it's time we introduce another big bad. This one having decidedly a bit more. This one having a bit more of a divisive view from fans. So till then, I hope you have a good Friday and take care.